What would you do if your own sister tried to destroy the happiest day of your life? Would you forgive her? Or would you strike back, harder? When I got engaged, I thought my biggest challenge would be picking the right dress or finalizing the guest list. I had no idea my real enemy was the person I grew up sharing secrets and bedrooms with, my sister. From the outside, she looked supportive, smiling at family dinners and asking about my plans, but behind closed doors, she was already setting traps, whispering doubts, and plotting to humiliate me. The signs were small at first, so small I questioned if I was imagining them, but I wasn't. And here's the part that will make your jaw drop. While I was preparing for my dream wedding, she was preparing for war. Before I reveal exactly how far she went and how I turned the tables, I'd love to hear your thoughts. If you enjoy shocking family confessions like this one, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the next story. My sister and I were never the kind of siblings who lifted each other up. From the time we were kids, everything was a competition. If I got an A on a test, she'd point out that hers was an A+. When I won a school award, she somehow managed to forget to clap. One memory still burns in my mind, my 16th birthday. I was finally allowed to invite friends over for a big party. I spent weeks planning it, but the moment everyone gathered around to sing me happy birthday, my sister fainted, dramatically, right in the middle of the living room. She stole every ounce of attention, and the rest of the night became about her. That was her pattern. If I had a spotlight, she found a way to stand in it. Back then, I told myself it was just sibling rivalry, something we'd laugh about as adults, but deep down, I knew better. My sister didn't just want to share the spotlight, she wanted to erase me from it completely. And when my engagement came, she finally saw her chance. When my fiancé slipped that ring onto my finger, I felt like my whole world lit up. My family cheered, my friends screamed with excitement, and for once, I thought my life had finally clicked into place. This was the moment every little girl dreams of, and it was mine. But across the room, my sister's smile didn't reach her eyes. Her lips curled upward, but her jaw was tight, and I caught the quick flicker of her eyes rolling before she plastered her face back into supportive sister mode. The congratulations poured in, calls, messages, family dinners where everyone wanted to hear about the proposal. And every time I told the story, I noticed her body stiffen, like the sound of my happiness scratched at her skin. She tried to cover it with fake enthusiasm. "Oh, that's amazing," or "Wow, you're so lucky." But her tone was flat, her voice slightly clipped. It wasn't support, it was resentment disguised as politeness, and while I was celebrating, she was already plotting how to turn my joy into ashes. It started small, so small I almost thought I was paranoid. At first, she forgot to pass along messages from the florist, which nearly made me miss a payment deadline. Then she gave me the wrong date for a bridal fitting, making me look careless in front of the designer. When I confronted her, she laughed it off. "Oh my God, you're overthinking, I'm just trying to help." She even acted offended, as if I was the crazy one. And for a moment, I doubted myself. Maybe I was being too sensitive. Maybe wedding stress was making me see things that weren't there. But the coincidences piled up. Wrong addresses for appointments, misplaced vendor contracts, subtle mistakes that always made me look disorganized. Every time she had an excuse. Every time she twisted it so I felt guilty for even questioning her. That's when the paranoia turned into certainty. She wasn't making mistakes, she was planting landmines, and I had no idea how far she was willing to go. The breaking point came with my wedding dress. I'd spent weeks searching until I finally found the one, a gown so perfect it felt like it was made for me. Every detail, from the lace sleeves to the soft shimmer of the fabric, felt like a dream I'd been waiting my whole life to wear. 1 week before the wedding, I opened the garment bag and froze. The lace was torn, jagged like it had been clawed. The bottom hem was soaked in some sticky brown stain, and the smell of chemicals hit my nose like poison. My heart sank into my stomach. I collapsed on the floor, clutching the ruined fabric. I remember sobbing so hard my chest hurt, asking myself, why? Who would do this? And then, in the silence between my gasps, the thought hit me like lightning. This wasn't an accident. This was her. I wanted to scream. I wanted to storm into her room and demand answers. But instead, I swallowed my rage and told no one. Because deep down, I knew this was just the beginning of her plan. When I finally worked up the courage to tell my parents about the dress, their reaction crushed me more than the damage itself. My mom shook her head, frowning. "Sweetheart, your sister would never do something like that." My dad added, "You're just stressed. Weddings bring out tension. You're probably overthinking." Even my aunt chimed in. "She's been helping so much, how could you accuse her?" It felt like I was screaming into a void. No one wanted to believe me. To them, I was the dramatic bride, paranoid and emotional. And my sister? She played her role perfectly, pretending to be hurt. She even teared up, whispering, "I can't believe she thinks I'd sabotage her wedding." The more I tried to defend myself, the more guilty I looked. My family rallied around her, painting me as ungrateful while she stood there, arms crossed, wearing that smug little smile she thought I couldn't see. That's when I realized sabotaging me. She was turning everyone else against me too. For weeks, I felt like I was losing my mind. She was careful, too careful, always keeping her mask on when others were around. But then, I got the proof I needed. One night, I passed by her room and heard her voice hushed but sharp on the phone. I paused outside the door, my heart pounding in my throat. "Don't worry, she has no idea. By the time the wedding comes, she'll look like a total mess. Everyone will see it." I pressed closer, barely breathing. She laughed, low and cruel, before whispering something about making sure the flowers get switched and the speech being handled. My chest tightened. She wasn't just sabotaging my dress. She was planning to dismantle the entire wedding. Just then, the floor creaked under my foot. My stomach dropped. I froze, terrified she'd fling the door open and catch me listening. But after a tense silence, her voice carried on, oblivious. I crept away, my hands shaking. Any doubt I had was gone. She wasn't clumsy, she wasn't careless, she was deliberate, and she wanted to ruin me completely. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, my mind replaying every sly smile, every mistake, every ruined plan. The truth hit me like ice water. My sister wasn't just jealous, she wanted to destroy me, piece by piece, until my wedding became a circus. The worst part? No one believed me. To my family, she was the doting sister helping with details. To me, she was a snake coiled tighter with every passing day. By sunrise, the fear I'd been carrying around had curdled into something sharper. I wasn't scared anymore. I was furious. Furious that she thought she could manipulate me, sabotage me, and walk away smiling. As I looked at the wreck of my dress hanging limply in the corner, a cold thought formed in my head. If she wanted a war, I'd give her one. And in that moment, the bride she thought was weak and fragile died. What rose in her place was someone ready to fight fire with fire. I spent the next few days quiet, observant, and careful. On the surface, I played my role as the overwhelmed bride, smiling politely, nodding when my sister pretended to help. But inside, I was building a plan. Part of me hesitated. Was I really about to sink to her level? To become just as manipulative, just as ruthless? I thought about it long and hard. And then I remembered the shredded lace, the chemical stench of my ruined dress, and the way my family looked at me like I was crazy. No, this wasn't about sinking to her level. This was about survival. So I began quietly gathering information. I listened. One could ignore. The question wasn't if I do it anymore. The question was how far I was willing to go. The first step was simple: plant doubt. My sister thrived on being adored, on having people believe she was flawless. So, I started chipping away at that image, piece by piece. At family dinners, I'd drop subtle comments like, "Funny how she's been so busy with my wedding when she hasn't even focused on her own plans yet." I said it with a laugh, like a joke, but I watched the words land. Eyebrows lifted. Curious glances shifted toward her. With friends, I'd let things slip. "Oh, she's been so stressed. Sometimes I wonder if she's ready for marriage at all." Again, I made it sound accidental, but I could see the seeds taking root. The best part? She had no idea. She thought I was sulking, licking my wounds. Meanwhile, I was smiling, laughing, acting like the perfect bride-to-be, while quietly turning people against her. And every time I caught her looking at me suspiciously, I felt a dark thrill. Because for the first time in my life, she wasn't the one controlling the narrative. I was. It didn't take long for the cracks to show. My sister, usually so composed, started snapping over the smallest things. When her fiancé asked a simple question about the seating chart, she bit his head off. When our mom reminded her to pick up a package, she rolled her eyes and stormed off. Her temper became unpredictable, and people noticed. Friends whispered, "She's been acting weird lately." Family members exchanged uneasy looks. The perfect, polished sister was slipping, and I was the one holding the thread that unraveled her. One night, I overheard her fiancé trying to calm her down after another outburst. She shouted, "Why is everything about her? Why can't I ever have something for myself?" Her voice cracked, raw with desperation. She wasn't sleeping much either. I could tell by the dark circles under her eyes and the way her hands trembled when she tried to pour coffee. The stress was eating her alive. And the more she unraveled, the more I smiled. Because for once, she was the one losing control, and I was the one pulling the strings. I knew if I wanted to truly break her, I needed more than whispers and stress. I needed a trap she'd walk into on her own. And the perfect opportunity came when she started bragging about her wedding plans. She loved to gloat, talking about her dream venue, her exclusive designer gown, the guest list filled with people who, according to her, preferred her over me. I sat there, smiling sweetly, nodding along as if I wasn't taking mental notes. Then, I planted the bait. I casually mentioned that a few of her vendors had shady reputations, mix-ups, double bookings, cancellations at the last minute. I acted concerned, even sympathetic. "You might want to double-check everything just in case. You know how unreliable people can be." Admit she was worried, but I saw it in her eyes. Doubt. And doubt was exactly what I needed. Behind the scenes, I began pulling strings, reaching out to vendors, tweaking details, making sure that on her big day, everything she bragged about would crumble in front of an audience. The best traps are the ones people walk into willingly, and she was already halfway inside. The day of her wedding finally arrived, and I'll never forget the scene. Guests, dressed in their finest, filled the venue, phones out, ready to capture her grand moment. My sister stood at the entrance in her gown, chin high, glowing with the pride of being the star of the day. But then, the cracks started showing. The flowers she had bragged about, roses imported from overseas, arrived wilted and brown, their petals crumbling to the floor. The string quartet she claimed had been booked months in advance, nowhere to be found. Instead, a confused DJ showed up, insisting his contract was legit. Whispers spread through the crowd. Phones started recording. Her fiancé's family exchanged uneasy looks. And then came the final blow. The designer gown she had bragged endlessly about suddenly split at the seam as she tried to walk down the aisle. Gasps filled the room. Her face turned scarlet as she stumbled, clutching the torn fabric. I watched from the front row, calm and composed, while my sister's perfect day unraveled in front of everyone. Her sabotage of my wedding had failed, but mine? It was flawless. The venue erupted into chaos. Guests whispered behind their hands, some openly laughing, others recording the meltdown on their phones. Her groom's mother muttered, "This is a disaster," loud enough for half the front row to hear. My sister stood frozen in the aisle, her gown ripped, her flowers wilting in her hands. Her voice cracked as she shouted, "This isn't true. None of this was supposed to happen." but the more she screamed, the more unhinged she looked. Her fiancé tried to calm her, but she yanked her arm away, eyes wild, darting around as if searching for someone to blame. And then her gaze locked onto me. I saw the fury, the recognition, the sudden realization that I'd been one step ahead of her all along. Family members avoided her, too embarrassed to intervene. What was supposed to be the most beautiful day of her life had turned into a circus, and she was the main act. And me? I just sat there, hands folded neatly in my lap, wearing the same polite smile she'd used to torment me for months. Her perfect mask had finally shattered. After the disaster, my sister tried to flee, but I intercepted her in the hallway. Her face was streaked with makeup and tears, her hair disheveled. She glared at me, trembling with rage. "You think this is funny?" she spat. I shook my head slowly, keeping my voice calm. "No. I think you finally understand what it feels like to be humiliated in front of everyone you care about." She lunged, trying to grab my phone, the one holding the proof of her fiancé's secret flings. But I stepped back, blocking her. Every step, every gesture showed the desperation she had hidden for months. Her voice cracked as she yelled, "You had no right!" "Yes," I said softly, "I did. You crossed every line, and this was the only way to show you what it feels like." In that moment, I realized something unexpected. The fire I'd carried for revenge had cooled just a bit. Not completely, but enough to feel the strange mix of satisfaction and sorrow. Her downfall was complete, and I had survived the storm she'd created. Even after the confrontation, the aftermath wasn't over. My sister was still planning her own wedding, and I knew the perfect moment to tighten the screws had arrived. I began planting tiny, almost invisible doubts. Over wine one evening, I said casually, "Are you sure he's really as perfect as you think? Sometimes people hide things, you know." I let my words linger, watching her reaction. Her eyes flickered, the slightest shadow of uncertainty crossing her face. I followed up subtly, an accidental mention here, a helpful tip there, always suggesting she double-check details, reconfirm vendors, or question her fiancé's schedule. I never pushed too hard, never forced her to panic. I let the seeds grow naturally. The brilliance of doubt is that it spreads quietly. Every whispered suggestion, every casual warning chipped away at her confidence. Her smiles became tighter, her patience shorter. She was unraveling, just like I had planned. And all I had to do was keep smiling, keep pretending to be the caring sister. The morning of her wedding, my sister was radiant. Every detail she'd boasted about, the dress, the flowers, the venue, was in place. She walked through the crowd like a queen, all smiles and confidence, unaware that I was holding the key to her undoing. When the ceremony began, I stayed quiet, watching her glow under the spotlight. The officiant asked if anyone had reason these two shouldn't be married, and that's when I stood. Gasps rippled through the room as I revealed the truth. Her fiancé had been unfaithful, and I had the proof. Screenshots, messages, receipts, every secret laid bare. The room went silent, save for whispers and stunned murmurs. Her carefully curated image crumbled instantly. Her fiancé froze, speechless. Guests turned their attention to the shocking evidence displayed behind me. My sister's face went pale. She stammered, tried to protest, but the damage was done. Years of manipulation, lies, and arrogance couldn't withstand the truth, and for the first time, I watched her experience the humiliation she had tried to inflict on me for so long. The room was heavy with shock. My sister stood frozen, her face streaked with tears and mascara. Her fiancé stammered, grasping for excuses, but the evidence left no space for lies. Guests whispered and gasped, some recording every moment. Family members who had once sided with her now looked at me with quiet awe. My sister screamed, "This isn't fair, you can't do this." Her voice trembled, filled with the fury and disbelief of someone who had lost control. I could see it in her eyes. The realization that all her schemes had failed, the humiliation, the exposure, the undeniable truth. It hit her like a tidal wave. But as I stood there, watching her crumble, I felt something unexpected. Revenge didn't feel like victory. It felt heavy, like I'd carried her poison for so long that a part of me had absorbed it too. Yet, the damage was done. She had tried to ruin my wedding. I had destroyed hers. And the scales had finally balanced. Weeks passed, and the chaos of her wedding faded, leaving a silence heavier than any argument. My sister disappeared from family gatherings, avoided calls, and didn't post a single word on social media. For once, she wasn't trying to compete. She was hiding. Friends and relatives reached out to me privately. Some apologized for never believing me before. Others admitted they had suspected her manipulations all along. For the first time, I wasn't the overreacting sister. I was the one who had finally taken control of the narrative. But late at night, when everything was quiet, I replayed her face in my mind. The tears, the panic, the way her perfect world had crumbled. Did she deserve it? Absolutely. Did it cost me something too? Perhaps. Revenge doesn't erase scars, it just trades one kind for another. Still, a small voice inside whispered, "She drew first blood. I just finished the fight." Months passed before I saw my sister again. At a family gathering, our eyes met for the first time since her wedding disaster. She avoided my gaze, her once confident posture slumped, and her forced composure seemed fragile. Later, she pulled me aside, her voice quiet and hesitant. "I shouldn't have tried to ruin your wedding. I just couldn't stand seeing you happy first." It wasn't a full apology, but it was more honesty than I'd ever heard from her. I didn't forgive her completely, not yet. Some wounds are too deep. But I also felt the fire of revenge had finally cooled. I had already won, and she knew it. Family will always surprise you, sometimes with love, sometimes with betrayal, and sometimes survival means fighting fire with fire. So tell me, if your own sister tried to ruin the happiest day of your life, would you forgive? Or would you take revenge like I did? Hit that subscribe button for more shocking Reddit confessions, because the next story is even crazier, and you won't want to miss it.